Well, welcome everybody to Magnetic Core's Let's Talk, Episode 4. We're talking about structure today. And as we open this circle, I just want to acknowledge who's in the room from Magnetic Core. We've got 5 of the 6 Magnetic Core coaches in-house. So we've got Sarah and Ginny and Laura and Emma and myself, and I'm Corey. Super excited to have a whole bunch of people in the room from our greater audience with us today too. So nice to see your faces and thank you for coming. Just a little quick couple notes. We will be recording this session. And so if you choose not to have your image recorded, please, go ahead and turn your camera off and we'll know not to call on you when we get to the questions and answers a little bit later. Also, if you'd all be so kind so that we could preserve our Zoom sound quality as best we can, if you would keep your microphones muted until you speak, that would sure help a lot of things. I really appreciate that. Couple things, call back to past episodes. We're on episode number 4 of Let's Talk. So we've done this for 4 weeks in a row now. We're pretty excited about that. Our past episodes, the first one was dream work and the importance of dreaming. Then we jumped into tension, and we're gonna kind of call back to some tension as we talk about structure today. Then last week we talked about identity. We're gonna talk a little bit about identity today too, as we stack our cosmic lasagna together. Today's topic is structure. And one of the things that we kind of do right when we get into these topics is that we throw down some definitions right out the top. And so as I looked this up today, and I kind of went through a couple of different dictionaries and saw, 15, 20 different definitions of structure, and I chose 3. And one of which is from Chris Duncan from The Magnetic Mind. His definition adds another layer, and we'll get to that here in a second. But the first 3 definitions of structure, one of them, this one is from Merriam's dictionary, and it's something built or constructed as a building, bridge, or dam, right? Things coming together, parts coming together. The second definition was just from an online dictionary, and it was anything composed of parts arranged together in some way, an organization. So an organization of parts. And then definition number 3 from Chris himself is something that has many different parts held together by tension. Let me say that again. Something that is held many different parts held together by tension. So that's what we're starting today. Yeah, so let's throw it down. Let's throw it around to the coaches in the room. Structure, what you got? Sarah?
Me, I get to go. I'm just looking at that, something that has many different parts held together by tension, but which is my favorite definition of structure for our purposes and how we use the word, right, in our work. But definition A, something built or constructed as a building, bridge, or dam. I found that one really interesting because my mind immediately went to, it's not so much the bridge as it's like the canal, right? The walls of the canal. That's a structure. It's like containing the flow. So, as I'm thinking about what we even need to know about structure, why we use the word so much, I'm really excited to get talking about how we employ the concept of structure, how we recognize it, and then how, when it's recognized, we can kind of rearrange the parts and rearrange the tension. So again, calling back to the other episode on tension, you think about all of the different, things that we explored with the idea of tension. Now apply that to the idea that you're holding parts together with that tension, and then now let's look, what are the parts?
Right. One of the things I want to talk about when you brought up the bridge, and that's one of the reasons why I chose this definition today, is because so often when we think about our current reality compared to our desired reality, we're building a bridge. We're creating some structure right in that bridge right there. And then how we get across that bridge and the difficulty or hesitation we meet on that bridge that we might call resistance, then we get to work with that. So there's a little beginning place on structure. So now I think we should talk about some examples. What are some examples of structure, especially in the work of coaching and in the work of manifesting a life we love, right? When we're going to implement the concept of structure into how we grow and evolve on our human journey, you know? So I think there's some pretty cool ones. Chris obviously talks about, you know, you got the rubber band on 2 points and you pull it and there's structure right there. Boink, structure, creating a path, creating a way of parts joined together for a purpose, right? What are some other examples of structure, maybe metaphors of structure in the way that we're talking about it inside of, underneath our umbrella?
Well, for me, I'm just looking at, you know, it just, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit further on here, but, you know, it's a way, it's the way things work in your current reality. So, you know, if you're hungry, there's going to be tension to get you to go and eat. And then those two parts are held together with that tension so that you resolve to go eat when you're hungry, unless there's another tension, like a separate tension, pulling you a little sideways. So there's like competing structures too, which we'll get into, but.
Well, and right there, Sarah, let's just call back to our episode on tension. Tension seeks resolution, right? Which is, and when we're talking about, you know, creation as well as in the tension inside structure, it's seeking resolution. It's seeking a solution, right? You know, and so I love that hungry, eat, satisfied example, because that's a little bit of an oscillator. That's one that returns back to the beginning, right? All of a sudden we're hungry again and we start over. So I think that's a nice example of what an oscillating structure could be.
I prefer a flowing structure. You know, me.
Well, let's have an example of a flowing structure.
Flowing structure, very simply, back to the canal. You've got the banks of a river, or you've got walls of a canal, and it's directing the flow of the water. Nothing's holding it back, you know, and it's not just kind of going everywhere. So it's just the containment and building that, I don't have another word, you're building a structure around the water to make sure it goes in the direction you want it to go.
Yes, and that water travels on that path of least resistance provided by the structure.
The structure.
Yes. So there's and I love that, you know, especially in all the work we do in this, you know, in removing resistance, especially when we refer to recodes and things like that, where we get to rearrange the structure so that the flow that we're currently in can shift to a desired flow of what we're trying to do next. Pretty cool.
Now, to that point, I mean, here I am talking about rivers and banks, and I mean, what does that really mean to a person, and how does that apply to their life? But it kind of does if you work with the metaphor a little bit. But you want, people say things like, oh, you know, things are moving along in that area. You know, you'll hear that. It's moving along. I'm making some progress. It's going. And so in coaching circles, you know, we generally refer to that as flow. It's flowing. It's moving along. Not every area of your life is going to be in flow. It's not going to be making progress or moving along. Maybe you feel limited and you've got no choices. Maybe there's no options on the table and you are stuck. You're not getting anywhere. And people say that, I'm stuck in a rut. I'm not getting anywhere. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got no choice. I've got no options. And this is where it's important to know where your structure is, because that's what we do. We rearrange the structure.
Well, in a stuck structure, like we mentioned when we were just talking about the riverbanks and the old flow of the old river that got us where we are today. Like, you know, if sometime in the past we built that structure, right? We built the dam or the canal walls, and now we're proposing this lovely idea or opportunity to rearrange that structure to go from stuck to flow. You know, so here we have 3 examples of structure: a stuck structure, an oscillating structure, and a flowing structure. You know, I think that's a really lovely place to get into, you know, the possibilities of change you know, how we can control and guide and choose the flow we desire. I think that's a pretty cool thing. That's a pretty neat thing to do. We move in one direction to relieve that tension. Then we choose that next direction because we love it, you know, and then we change and we grow again. Pretty nice place to be, right? So I think that's a lovely first example of structure alone, structure all by itself. But now I want to propose the idea of two of them operating at the same time, right? You know, and when we, excuse me, when we were talking earlier today, we didn't talk about parallel structures that complement each other, but we certainly were talking about competing structures that oppose each other. You know, all of a sudden you have one belief and another opposing belief running at the same time, which creates a stuck structure. You can't quite move forward in that way.
Or just as a overall example of a competing structure in the real world, maybe not necessarily relating to a personal issue, but it could. You've got a particular organizational structure, corporate structure at work, and there's certain ways that your work progresses, and then there's the structure of the law, and you need to make sure that they're not in conflict, right? Mm-hmm. So you're constantly adjusting structure anyway, but I invite you to consider where it's fairly common to discuss reorganizing the structure of a company, or reorganizing or changing a law, or, you know, making sure that your values are not in conflict with, you know, the way your society runs, or what have you. That's fairly common to recognize. But if you look at it on a smaller scale inside your own life, how you do something always, or, you know, how you've arranged your day, how you have set yourself up, that's structure. And that you've got control over.
Right. Right. So competing structures that oppose each other, that don't get along, you know, you got some angry kids in the sandbox here. So earlier we used the example of you're hungry, so you eat, and then you're satisfied. All right, well, let's put another one alongside that doesn't quite fit, that's in opposition to that. So let's say, you know, somebody's feeling like they are overweight, and so they want to diet, and then they want to lose weight or be more healthy, whatever that is. So all of a sudden you're hungry, but you're overweight. And then when you're hungry, you want to eat, but now we're dieting. And then all of a sudden you're satisfied because you're well fed, but now I'm losing weight. You know, now we're kind of rubbing against each other. Or, you know, another one would be, you know, I'm feeling lonely, right? And so I'm craving a loving relationship, versus I really love my independence, but I also see the benefits of partnership. You know, so how do we put this on the cosmic scale? How do we put those things in balance, right?
Right, reconciling the concepts and seeing where they're kind of, well, they're out of alignment, right? You've got this tension, and it's going to resolve path of least resistance, but you can manipulate your life choices, the structure of your day, your life, your environment, to allow it to, you can allow that tension to resolve in the direction you prefer. And some of that is psychological tension. Some of it is just the tension of the competing structures, right? Where you're, you know, you can set yourself up for success. That's kind of a conventional way to say that. And so we dig down and say, okay, exactly how? But having that psychological pull where you decide you want something, but then you just can't get there mentally. You just can't. It's just something's not right about it.
Yep.
And something's holding you back. Something's stopping you. Something's saying, "Are you sure? Like, well, what are you doing? Where'd that come from? What is it? And does it matter?" So we'll talk about that too. But that is what we call resistance. That's what we call that psychological tension. that is in your mind. It's gotten there in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
But it really can throw a wrench into your hamster wheel. And we'll talk about hamster wheels in a minute.
Right. So now we're talking about like this kind of being stuck. Like I have an idea, but I can't quite get there. You're in an old structure that kind of oscillates, or it's got you where you are, and so I want to just propose this question, because so many of us arrive at this place across the globe, coming from all communities and all countries. Where does some of this come from? Where do we learn it? I think a lot of it, it's the mindset of our society. It's the mindset of our planet, how the human race has evolved to where we are right now, this problem solving structure, right? We're kind of seeking to solve something, right? It's taught us, it's kind of the way of life, is that this is what we do, this is how we evolve, and then in this work, we're going to challenge that. We're going to challenge
it was, the way things were set up, it was required. We needed to solve all of these problems.
Yeah.
I think that we've done a really good job, and having people tasked with, solving the problem of shelter and solving the problem of infrastructure, and like all of the engineers of the world, we love you, thank you. Does it need to be a way of life? Like, does everything need to be a problem that needs to be solved? And the other thing is, I got to call back to identity, because we talked about this in the identity piece. Who do you need to be, and what does that mean? And that creates a giant psychological tension where it's like, I don't know if I can be that person. Or I want to, but I've never done that kind of thing, or I've never lived that way before. And what does that, people will say that, what does that make me then? And that's a genuine question. And part of this work is answering that. But for today, we're just talking about the things you can do with the structure around you, how to recognize it, how to identify the pieces that are movable, and where you can set up tension to get yourself lined up so that you can get where you're going and get there faster, right?
Right. So, okay, so I want to propose this idea. How's this sit with y'all? You're currently sitting in your old path of least resistance. And these lessons you got from your environment, your parents and your churches and your governments and your schools, and, and some inherited beliefs and behaviors, and now that's what got you here.
Okay, so you're saying like, okay, you go to school and you graduate, and then you get hired on at the place, and then you work there for 25 years and you get a gold watch, and meanwhile you have to, you start a family and you buy a house and you buy a car. There's a checklist.
Yep.
And that's just the way it's done.
Right.
Or is it? Where did that come from, right?
Yeah.
This reminds me. This reminds me of
no, Laura, bring it on.
Yeah, no, I have a good friend of mine. She was brought up in a really religious home, and she has recently started this path in a business called Family Culture Hackers. And I just think it's the coolest thing. And what it is looking around and saying, how did we get here? And what do we want to deliberately choose? And so it's questioning a lot of those, the parental beliefs, the religious beliefs, society's beliefs, we can look at that and see what works for us and dissolve the things that are, that are just holding us in structures that are not getting us to where we want to be. I just think it's brilliant. And
that is brilliant. You're saying it's a whole program to unpack family structure and reorganize it deliberately.
Deliberately create. Wow. Right. Isn't that the coolest thing? She's been on this path for a while, and I've been following her, and it's just been growing and growing. And it's all what we're doing here, but purposefully getting in and as a family saying, what do we want our culture to be? And what do we want to take with us from what we were given? And what do we want to leave behind? So
That is so epic, because
Right?
that's another piece of it, is the, the family, like, this is our culture. And that's like the end answer. You can ask, as a 4-year-old, you can be like, why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why? And the answer is always like, because that's our culture. That's what we do. That's what we're like. And it just creates this family identity, this cultural identity. And so, again, calling back to last week, bring all of those concepts of identity into not just a personal identity, but a family identity, your community identity, your cultural identity, your national identity. Your identity as a citizen of the planet. What's that? What does that look like? And is there a difference in there, right?
And how personal are each one of those experiences to you? How personal is it?
So
now this is unlocking door.
You know what? I have to say, Corey, it feels so personal that I was like, what's the matter with that? That's who I am. But yeah.
Wow.
That's who we are, right? When someone says that's who we are, it's like you're locked in and you don't get to choose, because that's who we are, right?
Right.
So.
Well, and so much of Chris Duncan's work, he's full on, straight up saying it to our faces. It's not personal. Mm-hmm. It's not personal. You are not your creation. You are not your body. You are not your relationships. You are you.
For the first time, it's not about you.
It's not a cool
It is, but it's not. Like, the problem is not about you.
Well, and you created it, but you're not it, right? That's something to really wrap your brain around, because you can create a whole different experience, because the experience isn't you. You get to keep creating.
So I make a sandcastle on the beach, and it's really cool and really pretty, but it isn't me.
Yep.
I can leave. I can go doing another thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like I have to sit there and like tie myself to my sandcastle because I made it and it's my thing. Right. I mean, eventually the tide's coming in, right?
Well, I just want to add some things. It's like, okay, you are you, but you are also not your environment. You're not your parents. You're not your churches. You're not your government. You're not your schools. And you're not these inherited beliefs that came from the past. And so much of our current reality is tagged to every one of those things. And then we tag our self-worth to those things, right?
But because we're allowing those beliefs to run us, it looks like it's us, and it looks like that's, that's who we are.
To a rational, reasonable thinking person, it's a logical assumption to make, and especially take away the rational, reasonable, logical, and you put the concept in a 4 to 7 year old who's just trying to get the lay of the land and figure out how things work around here. And that gets locked in.
Yeah.
And it is, until you open that up and take a look at it and choose to revisit it, that programming is there.
So now we're talking about, okay, your old flow, your old path of least resistance, your old structure has these pieces of the puzzle built into it. Your identity and self-worth and some personal beliefs around hesitation with all of these things we've just addressed. And a new structure where we don't take things personally, so now the idea of success and failure comes up here. Like, all right, we're young and we're going to try a new idea. When we're little, we have all kinds of permission to get it wrong while we figure it out. As we become adults, all of a sudden failure becomes this like shadow subject. We're not allowed to fail. Mm-hmm. However, I know that, man, I have made some huge mistakes. And in looking back, man, they created who I am. Thankful now for those mistakes in that journey. What a cool thing to know that doesn't have any mark about the character, my tender heart, my beautiful human, my ability to love everyone on the earth has nothing to do with these gigantic mistakes that I've made in the past, which also then say, okay, my gigantic successes also don't influence who I am or who my character is. They're just part of my human experience. They're part of what I've chosen to create.
Right. But then, okay, now I have to go back to my favorite little guy, the hamster wheel, the little hamster on the wheel. I got to talk about him. Okay. Because, you know, when you're looking around and seeing your structure, what kind of situation, what are your circumstances? Are you stuck? Are you kind of back and forth with that oscillating thing? Or are you making progress? Are you moving forward? Are you getting there? You know? And so if you look at a hamster who's on a little hamster wheel and he's going, right? And he's going and going and going, and he's going as fast as he can. And if he just runs a little faster he's going to get, but if you look at him running on the wheel, he's not actually going anywhere, right? He's just still there. He's given it all he's got, and he's not getting anywhere. And he's got no idea that he's not making any progress. He's got no idea he's going nowhere fast. And then if he does figure it out, he's just going to sit there in the wheel and just be like, well, doesn't matter. And I can't do anything about it. And then he sits there and he ponders and he's like, you know what? Maybe I need to be a better hamster. If I was a better hamster, I would have got somewhere. And then maybe he's going to get a second wind and give it another go. And he's just going to give her on that little hamster wheel. And he's still not going to get anywhere. And then he's going to be like, see, proof. I suck as a hamster. I'm a terrible hamster. And he's just going to sit there. He's going to do nothing. And it's not the hamster's fault. It's the wheel.
Right.
It's about the wheel. So you've got to, if you change the structure, if you take that wheel and you make a little bridge for him, he's going to get somewhere. Right? I'm just saying, I love my hamster.
Well, choosing to leave the wheel, right? Then now what? I love this, success is doing what matters most. I love that definition of the word success. Success is doing what matters most. Now we got a hamster sitting there, dumbfounded in the wheel. What is his obvious next action? What's he going to do next? What is the behavior he's going to do next?
He needs a coach.
Right. Well, and coming back to where we're coming from a few, maybe 5 minutes ago, was who you are is different than what you do. Who you are is different than what you do. Now this little hamster is going to okay, I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to start self-evaluating. I'm going to okay, now I'm going to look and see what's going on here. What's the common denominator with my experience, right? Well, the common denominator of our experience is the structure, but so often we think it's us. We think it's me. I'm the problem. I got to solve something. I got to do something.
Right? Because the hamster's got to go train to run that wheel faster and better and
go take a course and take a class and get a certificate and do a thing.
He's just got to be a little smarter. If he was a little smarter, he'd be a better hamster.
Right. Yeah, we tend to think and act as if it's me. Right, I'm the one I got to work on. What does that do? It helps us take it personally. We're back to that again. Oh, now it's me. I'm the problem. But really, the thing all of this has in common, it's the structure in which that's holding the playground while you're playing. It's the structure that's holding the flowing river. It's the structure of the house that keeps the roof up. It's the structure of the wind pushing the sails of the sailboat. Everything has structure. Ideas have structure, and so here we are, we're jumping into this,
we need to take a look at where are the moving parts, like what can be adjusted, what adjustments can we make? And if you want to move a river around a particular area because you want to build something there and you can't have the water flooding it, so you're going to redirect the water, and but you can't do it all in 1 minute, because if you do it all at once, it makes just a giant mess. So you end up with chaos. You have to keep it structured as you move it. And so there's a little bit of a dance in there too, right?
Yeah,
Well,
there's
go ahead,
a lot
Laura.
of dance. Yeah, no, there's a lot of dance. I like to think that we get to notice what structures we're currently in. We get to adjust the structures. We get to create brand new structures, and then we get to maximize the structure. So we get things in place, and then we can tweak them, like Sarah is saying, so that we maximize what we want from that structure. So if we have something that we want in a place where we don't want to be, we can put our focus more on one side or the other, right? And say we want to be somewhere, but we don't want it that much. We really haven't chosen, things that we really want. So, that affects the weight of that equation a little bit, right? So we get to play around and maximize the structure that we're talking about to get where we really want to be. So.
Right. So here we are resolving, right? Or creating this new thing by resolving this tension that's inside of our structure, right? And so I just want to call a little bit of attention towards an away mindset. Like now we're kind of aware of what we're running away from, right? And if we hang out there too much, we're building a structure to make us run right toward the thing we're trying to get away from. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to know what we don't desire so that we can have a really good detailed list of what we do desire, right? But it's important to not hang out in the away mindset.
So when we're talking about that away mindset and this problem solving, and you want to move, it's a very subtle thing a lot of times, but so important. When you're looking at something, you're facing it, right? And if you want to move towards one thing, you can't be turned around looking at your problem and focusing on that, because forward movement is going to move you right into that problem. And having that comfort zone, because you're familiar with it, is going to entice you psychologically. This is more comfortable. This is more my speed. This is good enough. And that's the settling. And it's not really what you want. But when you start to unpack it and look over at what you want, you have to turn yourself around and you have to face where you're going and not be looking at all of the problems that the structure created, because just focusing on them is going to reinforce that old structure, and you're trying to rebuild it. You're trying to dismantle and rearrange it. Mm-hmm. So you don't stand on the bridge when you're taking it apart.
Right. Yeah. You want to land where you want to land. And William Whitecloud is really big on where's the power. And if your power is in where you were and not where you want to be, then that's where it's going to resolve, right? So Absolutely. If you put the power where you want to be, and then let the inspired action show up, then that's where it's going to resolve. So
right. So we're talking about building some structure, towards a desired reality, right? Okay, so now it's our current reality, our desired reality. We're going to talk about this a million times. I love returning to this. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's okay. So then there's identity, which is part of your current reality, and your ideals, which is part of your desired reality, right? Ideals are these loaded things of love and relationships with others and your health and vitality and the impact you want to make on the world and the status that you want to earn and keep and respect with, right? And your current identity then is like, well, maybe it's
not all that.
Right? Yeah. Do we got the also famous self-sabotaging ideas, heavy organ comes in here, dun, dun. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. I'm insignificant. I'm not perfect. But love my dream, but I don't know if I can get there. Right?
And that's when you're getting into that, that's exactly like, we know that that's there. That is well studied, well established. These that's part of the human experience. So that's there. It's going to be there. We don't cure it. It's part of being a people, right? But what we do is we end up looking for opportunities to make, to build a structure and create more tension that will override it. So it's not in your way. We want a more powerful tension going where you want to go. So when those things show up, oh, I don't feel good enough, or I don't know if I can do that. Nobody will listen to me. I'm not perfect, and all those things.
So now, what do we call that again? Earlier on, we made reference to this. This has a name. The competing tension structures. We have two opposing tension structures that are not getting along. They're going to not let you move forward, right? There's resistance to your desired reality now.
Exactly. We need to weaken one and strengthen the other so that we can set ourselves up to make sure that we get the results we're looking for. Right. And we're not sitting in a hamster cage going, I wish I was a better hamster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was listening to, I think it was Kelly earlier, and she was saying massive action in the wrong direction is not going to get you where you want to go. You may get somewhere, but it's not where you want to be, right? But inspired action toward where you want to go is the way to go. I loved that. And yeah, it can keep you on the hamster wheel too. If you're, I think a lot of people equate success with doing. And, we're breaking that down here so you can see that doing is not necessarily what gets you the success you want, right?
Okay,
so you can do and be on that hamster wheel and end up in the same place, right?
In the doing, right? Here we are, we're going to dream, we're going to try, we're going to attempt and grow again. And in the doing, we are trying to prove that we are not our deepest and darkest fears, right? We're trying to prove that we're not those things, so if I'm not bad, I'm good. If I'm not a loser, then I'm a winner. If I'm not broken, then I'm fixed. And now here's one. If I'm not wounded, I'm healed. So where are we on those cosmic bridges in our self-understanding and our ability to create the life we love? Where do we stand with some of those things?
And when you're looking at those polarities, that it's always a sliding grayscale, but everything is both. And so to agonize about the dark end of that bridge and be trying to stay over on the light end that's just not life. And when you're focusing and obsessing over, I can't be bad, I can't be a loser, I can't be wounded, I can't be broken, or hitting the hamster wheel for, you want to be good, you want to be a winner, you want to be fixed, you want to be healed. And you do the thing and you do the thing just for that identity. And it's not worth that much focus because you're always on that sliding scale, and that's okay.
Right. So this is starting to allude to the toward mindset. Absolutely. Knowing what you don't want allows us to know what we do want. But then we spend more time, more emotional attention on what we do want. What a lovely opportunity to grow again. In this old structure, problems lead to not good enough, which seeks a resolution, which means you're going to find more problems in a problem mindset, right? Where now you're oscillating in this trapped world between current reality and desired reality, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is one of the most stressful environments for our body to survive in. We put ourselves in stress when we are in these oscillating situations with who we want to be versus what we're going to let ourselves have. This causes body stress. This causes sickness in the body. This causes disease. you know?
It's exactly that. It's dis-ease.
Yes.
There is no ease. There's no flow. You're conflicted. You're of two minds about something. You can see it, but it's not really you, but is it? And you just twist yourself into a diseased pretzel.
Right. So now that unlocks the door to, okay, if we get to choose the structure that we're going to grow and evolve and use to become who we want to be, or use to manifest the things we want in our lives, right? Where is the chosen path of least resistance, right? How do we get there? Like, what's the next steps then? You know, like, what happens next?
Okay, so when you're just, I'm just gonna throw this one down. You come upon a forest and you decide you want to make a road through there. So you could take a moment, figure out where the best path through is. And you've got a little bit of clearing to do, and a little bit of planning, and a little bit of, making sure that you get it laid down correctly so that it's good and solid. And that is the idea of planning a little bit and taking a look and really understanding what you're dealing with. And we all do it in other areas of our lives. Okay, what are we dealing with here? What's the situation? It's not a problem. It's just a thing you want to make. But you approach it similarly. So it feels sometimes like it's hard to tell the difference between solving a problem or creating a thing and just trying to figure out how you're going to proceed instead of how you're going to begin to fix. Now, that would be an inspired action where you're taking a moment to really see, what are we looking at here? Where we want to go? Okay, which way is it going to go? Let's get it lined up. Let's figure it out. What equipment do we need? What tools, what skills, what capabilities, what people? And you figure it out and you plan it. That's inspired action. Somebody else could come along and say, okay, I see a forest, I want a road there, and they just drive their bulldozer right through. Now that is massive action. Like, he's going for it, which is great, except for he didn't check where he was going and he just went off a cliff. Right?
Right.
Because like, he didn't go and see. He didn't take a minute, and he didn't make sure he was pointed in a direction that he wanted to end up. And so that's the most blunt example of inspired action versus massive action. Like, you can just give her, but it doesn't mean it's going to land you where you want to land. You want to take a minute and inspire yourself with your end result and know where that is. Need to set your sights on an end point.
Well, I think that opens this conversation of, okay, chosen structure for the way you're growing now. And okay, if we get to choose, a couple of things I like to throw down in my prayers and plans is this phrase: with ease and grace.
Love it.
I want to grow big, but I want to do it with ease and grace so that the universe doesn't just knock me on my butt. All right, you ask for a thing, bam, there it is. How about doing it with a sense of humor, or maybe some laughter and love, or maybe with tribe and family, as we can grow and evolve together. But I think a biggest thing about choosing a structure that serves your evolution is the intellectual knowledge with some science, and we can nerd out on the science behind this forever. But
we really could.
Yeah, but the knowledge that we get to choose a resistance-free, flowing structure with ease and grace. Wow. Oh my gosh, I can surrender some struggle for some satisfaction. I can surrender some hard labor for some satisfied work done. Wow, what a nice exchange. What a lovely place. And so here we are talking about structure. Tension holds structure. Structure guides the flow, right? Now we're going to talk about, in this new structure of manifesting your world, there's the 4 orientational choices. of structure, right? The four, the big four. And we've heard them, but here they are. I choose a life I love. I choose to live my true nature and purpose. I choose to be the creative force of my life. And health and vitality, the four of them, right? That's right. Awesome place to start about structure. I'm going to put that in place.
Those are like the cornerstones that we build everything on, because those balance your life. And we're going to talk about those a lot more next week. We're going to get into true choices next week and what that looks like and what we mean by that. But those are our main four true choices. Those are the core choices that you get lined up to that.
Yeah. So now we're talking about the possibility of dreaming and manifesting our dreams coming true. And we do in our work with Magnetic or with our coaches, we've added these four orientational choices into our lenses on the very front end as a way to really dream these four pieces into existence. Let's really jump into all four of these choices: a life I love, health and vitality, my true nature and purpose, and to really be the predominant creative force in your life. I can't wait for more of this. Next week's conversation on this is going to be great. True choices around these four things. Bring it on. I'm excited. Absolutely. So now toward mindset, here we go again. Now we're choosing what to put in our focus. Now we're aware of what we don't want. Now here's a little structure to choose what you do want, what you're going toward, moving toward these elements, these four cornerstones of who you want to be and who you're growing into. What are you looking at? What are you choosing from? What are you choosing from? Right. Structure.
It's such a surprising reaction that you get from people when you're like, what would you love just because? Everybody's so focused on, I'd like this because it would fix that, or I'd like to have this because it would resolve this or resolve that. It's like, but supposing, and it takes a minute. And back to, the Dream Cafe, the first episode of this, imagining and allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to dream up something, and know that there's a way to get there, and it's not about you. Like, it's not personal. It's no reflection on you. It's just a thing you want to try. It's like, you can't play wrong. Right? You either play or you don't play, but you don't play wrong. There's no wrong way to play.
So we're dreaming forward. We're dreaming to the future. We're dreaming toward what we're looking at, where there's no resolving. There's no fixing. There's no running away from. Wow, what a relief to not have those pieces in the puzzle. To move, to just create and to just dream because you love it. 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 It's not personal. You just love it. Yeah. And we get to change. We get to put ourselves in the steering wheel, but in the dashboard of our cosmic dreams, we get to drive that vehicle into our future. We get to, and we get to do it consciously with each other. So good. So good. Yeah, there's actually a way to rearrange the structure you are in once you identify it. Yeah, we help you build your new structure by coaching you. Absolutely. The importance of coaching, how we implement change, right? So how do we implement change? We choose and make choices. We step into the end result of having it. Yeah, totally. Current reality, bridge to end reality, right? Riverbanks metaphor, once again, okay, we put the riverbanks in place before, the old river flowing to our old world. Well, we get to come in and rearrange those riverbanks. We made them the first time. We're going to make them again. Change the flow to what we're doing now. All right. So now I want to talk a little bit about coaching, the importance of coaching. You know, those of us, and the 6 of us in Magnetic Core, you know, we're receiving coaches. You know, we've been coached. We coach each other. And now we're reaching out to coach you in this world. One, because we can't see our own blind spots. We move forward. You know, we ask for some cosmic mirroring to say, hey, this is what I want. And here's where I'm vulnerable and I'm lost in this. And the coach from over here can go, hey, I see this and this and this. And this is kind of in the way. We can have that really lovely conversation in a safe way, in an honest and transparent way to say, all right, I just got some acknowledgement. I just saw some possibility that I didn't see on my own. Yeah, Sarah.
And without any judgment, it's like, it's useful. It's not that anything needs to be completely discarded. Not always. Sometimes it's just in the way of your current true choice. You can scooch it. You don't have to blow it up. You don't have to dispose of it or whatever, like pulverize it. You might just need to scooch it out of the way, rearrange your day, or introduce a new thought, or whatever it is. But the idea that, you know, the way you have been approaching life, the way you are and the way you live isn't incorrect. It's just that if you're unhappy and you're not having a life you love, then we can show you maybe a different way, help you design a different way of living that suits you and who you choose to be, where you choose to go in the way you choose to get there.
Well, you know, reading the cosmic menu, like so many, you know, I love that metaphor. We come back to that again, like so many of us are stuck on the appetizer page forever. We don't even get to main courses, let alone dessert in the back, you know, like, wow. Yeah. You know, so that's, you know, advantage of coaching and the mirroring of each other. Now I want to bring another layer into mirroring in the world of coaching. Now, you know, working in groups, you know, all of a sudden you build a tribe with a bunch of people who are on a similar path to yourself. You join a group where you can, you know, step into Facebook groups or a group like here in Magnetic Core, where all of a sudden we can mirror, ask good questions, come to the table and say, hey, I got a thing, or I got this one's bugging me, I need some help. Or hey, I had an achievement, I had a celebration, it was hard and got easy, and here I am to say it happened, I can prove it. True, you know, the group, the tribalism, the power of community. You know, those of us coming out of Magnetic Mind who have found each other, the 6 of us in Magnetic Core, we found each other in certification and grabbed onto each other. And then we started to grow and create together, you know, and wow, that cosmic mirroring, that validation, that proof that this work is worth it, that manifestation does happen. And it happens quickly when you put the pieces in place, when you have a structure that serves you, that all of a sudden your dreams come quicker. Things happen faster. You remove the resistance and you step into flow. And then that's action. That's taking action.
And so much faster than you might think. And so sometimes you throw a little kind of a test situation at this method. And it's like, okay, well, you know, no harm, no foul if this doesn't really do the thing. Mm-hmm. And then you get into it, and all of a sudden, all of the things start just coming, and you're, whoa, wait a minute, this works. And then you throw the big guns at it, right? You want all of the things that were really impossible, and you throw all of the impossible at it, and suddenly you've got all of the options. It's all possible. It's all possibilities, and it's simply a choice. And it's just so empowering and liberating.
Right.
One of the things I love about the group coaching environment is that we're really coaching you to get into this creative orientation. We're coaching you to help you to really hone in on what you love, what you want to create, right? And then we're helping you with tools to remove the things in the way. So nothing in there is relying on story. It doesn't matter what your story is, what's in your way. what your beliefs are that you came with, how badly programmed you are. It doesn't matter. None of that is even important. So it's, you know, we're just nudging in the direction of, and everyone starts to jump on that in a group environment because everyone starts to get it, and you start coaching each other. And that's how we all learned to begin with, right? Oh, okay, I see I'm not in a creative. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
There was actually, you know, when I started working in this group coaching, I started to kind of participate, and I realized, and it was fascinating when I was new to it, you could log in with an alias, you can listen in, you can participate, you can get all of the benefit, and you never have to say, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm dysfunctional. You know, like nobody cares.
I love it.
You know, and you could completely apply all of this to your life without ever sharing the personal narrative of where you used to be.
Yeah.
Because it's just not relevant in the way we approach where you're going.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that about this.
Yeah.
There's a way it works. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's just one more piece of the advantages of coaching and being in a group situation is the accountability piece. You know, because when you're sitting there by yourself and you're doing your own work, and, you know, sometimes it's easy to rearrange your priority list. Like last night, I did a thing and I did my lenses and I made some commitments, but today I'm just not there. You know, but
not feeling
all of a sudden, you know,
we'll
you've got a meeting with somebody on your similar path, or you got a meeting with your coach and you've made some commitments and you haven't done your homework. Well, it's going to get you there. And if you don't do your homework, you get to have that conversation about why you didn't, which is a good thing too, because we understand resistance. What held you back? Why? Let's unpack why you didn't get your goal done. And then we get to remove that resistance. Accountability, what a cool thing. So as we're wrapping up the hour here, we're about to open up to some aha moments and some takeaways from the group who's here with us today. But before that, I just want to give a quick shout out to what's happening this week in Magnetic Core. Saturday, day after tomorrow, our Genius Hub session 3 is going to be on the responsibilities of the unconscious mind. Wow. Super excited about jumping into that with you all. And then next Thursday, 1 week from today, session 5 of Let's Talk will be about true choices. And we made a little reference to that a few minutes ago. So with that being said, let's open up the group. Does anybody have any aha moments or takeaways or inspirations from our little journey today? Anyone want to jump in? Anybody? Who's out there? I know somebody's got a nugget or two to share.
No, for me, I'm just going to say a big shout out to Sarah's hamster. Said, you know, maybe I need to be, I wrote it down, maybe I just need to be a better hamster. And I'm kind of feeling like, you know, we need to name him.
I was thinking that too. Right on.
I think we need t-shirts.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to manifest the hamster.
Anybody else in the group have a little takeaway or aha or inspiration from structure? Anybody else?
I love these moments. I love that you guys provide these platforms. I'm so sorry I missed most of it. But even the few minutes that I did catch, the words, the commitment, the space that you guys are holding for all of us to step into this just reminds me that I have a group of colleagues who are supporting me in my learning this, getting through my certification. And it's, your voices are so warm and you're so loving and you're so supporting. And it reminds me when, like yesterday, I had a I'm not doing anything day where now I hear your voices and I'm like, oh my God, I do matter. And they care so much that they're available, and just hearing their voices just empowers me to like, I got to get my shit together. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we love you.
Thank you.
And Selma, I will say you do get to have a goof off day. You get to. Yeah.
That's when you have 3 in a row, it's not good.
Well, so glad you joined us, Selma. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sorry. Hi. I just want to say thank you. I love your guys' talks too. But I was thinking about, you were talking, when you said the word mirror, it hit me too. And then you went into the mirrors thing, because like in my life, I was surrounded by bad mirrors. So all I kept doing was the same old things. And it wasn't until I realized that I needed good mirrors. And like you're talking about, the coaches give you good mirrors too, because I still see myself with a funhouse mirror. I still see my life in funhouse mirrors. And I need people to redirect me and let me know what really is there, because when I'm in it, I can't see it. I'm too close. So I just think that that was really, really good point to make about how, what coaches can offer to the person that they might have not have thought about. So that's awesome.
I love that, Charity, because there's 2 primary mirrors that you run into. There's the victim and there's the genius. Yeah. And we will all day, every day, hold up a genius mirror for you. You know, we see you in your genius. That's where you are. You are potential. You are a creator. And, you know, I think everybody, I'm fairly confident in saying I think everybody has seen enough of the victim mirrors worldwide. You know, I think we can be done with those and really face what we want to create and do what we want to do and be seen for who we really are. Yeah. You know, because we're fantastic. Look at you. You're amazing.
I think mirroring is such a lovely thing. And I think perhaps we should entertain the idea of doing a Let's Talk on mirroring, because I think it's super important. Now, you know, we just talked about some of those advantages, but there's a third one. You know, so now here, I have a coaching practice. I've joined up with these beautiful people in Magnetic Core to raise the bar, to be committed to hold up that genius mirror for you. Now, the great thing about that is that as I'm doing that for you, you hold that genius mirror back for us. And now we're doing that together. You're letting us be in our genius. In serving you, I serve myself. Yeah, in serving you, I become a better person. So thank you for this cosmic mirroring dance that we're doing together. What a lovely thing to do. Thank you.
And thank you all for taking the time to come and be here and hear what we have to say and participate. It really, really matters to us, and we're really, truly grateful. So thank you.
Yeah. Any last bits before we head on out for the day? Anybody else? Last bits?
I'd like to throw a nod out to Robert Fritz, who is the one who tells us about structural tension, and he has a book called The Path of Least Resistance, if anyone's interested, if you want to learn more. Brilliant guy. Yeah.
Actually, in all of them. Yeah, he's got 3 on my shelf, and all 3 of them I come back to all the time. Yeah, well,
I read that book. I read the one book that Lara just mentioned, but
yeah, awesome.
I don't know. I missed the beginning of your Let's Talk episode today, but I think my biggest thing is around the 4 pillars, and every time I have to get out of this structure where as soon as I am close to getting to one of those pillars, one of the other pillars suffers and goes back the other way. And that's where I'm like, you know, it's like, so just be okay with that, or just keep trying. Like I notice it, you know what I mean? Clearly. So I'm just.
Well, you know, Heather, I think every single one of us experiences that, you know, and I think the goal with those 4 choices, those 4 pillars, those corners, those cornerstones, is to keep them in balance, you know, and then when 3 of them are strong and one of them needs some attention, so be it. that's a good thing. Then it calls your attention. It lets you know where to focus on, and then you bring it back into balance. I think everybody experiences that.
Hmm.
I really do. I know I do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I like Sarah's metaphor and going through the forest with the massive action and the versus inspired action.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, totally.
It's hard sometimes when you're like I feel like I'm doing all the things, you know what I mean? But it's maybe not always taking me to where I really want to go. So that's the.
Mm-hmm.
And when we take all of the tools together and we're looking at the lenses and we're figuring out what the action plan actually looks like, and you're doing all of the things and you're clearing any resistance, making sure that the psychological resistance is down, and checking off where your victories were, where your wins were, where you struggled, where you need support, and you're doing all of the things, you're sitting in the tension that you've created in the new structure. And there's power there, but it's also really hard to sit. It's that wait for it moment. And so we talked about that a little bit in the tension talk. It can be really hard, especially if you begin second guessing. So I would say to that, stick to the lenses and hold the tension for long enough to see something give, because something's got to give, right?
Well, and ask for the help you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know we're here, right? So you can hang out with us all the time.
I got you.
Yeah,
Heather.
I think I just keep changing my end result, my desired result.
Well, there's a really good awareness right there, you know, and maybe part of that is some work on what your true choices really are. Mm-hmm. That might be part of that work. Next week, true choices. Let's talk.
Right? Let's talk.
All right.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, all. I'm so happy to see all of my fellow coaches on the call. Mm-hmm. And Kim is enjoying her